When you're looking at your mockup, deciding what you should export out as an image, you want to consider what CSS could reproduce. Oftentimes, when you're working with things like buttons and other small UI elements, CSS can handle that and reproduce it in a browser. That is definitely the preferred way opposed to using an image. Clearly, when you have a picture of mountains, you can't reproduce that in CSS. It's simply not an option. You need an image. But looking at something like this welcome button, or if we scroll down a little bit and take a look at the team section, we have a join our team button. These types of things can be reproduced using CSS. And like I said, that's the preferred way. So if we come over to the header layer group and expand it, you'll see that we have this rectangle. This rectangle can be easily reproduced with CSS. This is a very basic rectangle, but if you want, you can go ahead and right-click or control-click on the layer, and you can choose Copy CSS. Now, I do recommend changing the name of the layer because that name will be used in the CSS rule that's generated. So in this case, I'll go ahead and call this BTN. At that point, I'll right-click or control-click and choose Copy CSS. I'm then going to come over to Dreamweaver for just a moment, but it doesn't really matter what program you're using. If you have a basic text editor, that will be fine. We just want to take a look at the code that Photoshop has given us. I'm going to go ahead and paste this. It's Control-V on the Windows side. It's Command-V on the Mac. And you'll notice all the different properties that it configures for you. Now, sadly, it does give you probably too many properties. You're probably not in need of the position property, nor would you be in need of top and left. But things like width and height, maybe not z-index, but border style, border color, and border width are all things that you would have to write on your own. So this really can be a fairly large time saver. Not only that, CSS3 has some fairly robust capabilities. If I wanted to, I could come over here to the Tools panel, and I could select the Path Selection tool. With that tool, I could click and drag a marquee around this rectangle or click on it. Then you can come over to the Properties panel. Inside the Properties panel, you'll notice you have the ability to round the corners of this rectangle. If you want to round the corners on all four sides, you can come over here and click this little chain link icon. If you deselect it, you can control the corner radius of each corner individually. In this case, I'll leave the chain link icon selected, and I'll go ahead and type in 7 pixels. When I tab away from it, you'll notice that 7 is populated in all 4 text fields. Also here, we're getting the readout 7 pixels, 7 pixels, 7 pixels, 7 pixels. If we take a look at the rectangle, we can see that we have rounded corners. You could also create something like a drop shadow. If you come over and highlight the BTN layer down towards the bottom, you can click FX and choose Drop Shadow. You can change some of the properties here to get the look that you want. For right now, I'll go ahead and click OK. I'm not really looking for this look, but I want to show you the CSS that's generated. So again, I can come over here and right-click or control-click, and I can choose Copy CSS. When I return back to the code editor or the text editor, I can come back here and paste that code, Control-V on Windows, Command-V on the Mac. And yes, I get the position, left, top, and z-index properties that I don't need, but that's easy enough to delete. And it leaves you with all these other properties that you would have to otherwise set up. Width and height, border width, color, style, and radius now, along with box shadow. So if you are the designer and the developer, you're going to save a lot of time by having Photoshop generate some of this CSS for you. And if you're just the designer, it could be handy to give the developer the CSS for a particular item so that developer doesn't have to generate it on their own. So that's a nice, easy way to reproduce some basic elements that you have inside of Photoshop using CSS and having Photoshop generate that CSS for you.